This video I'll try and show you how a power steering rack and pinion setup works. This is your rack. Inside your rack goes your tie rods. They go out to each wheel. Some racks go behind the wheel and some racks go in front of the wheel, depending on whether they're in front or behind. Left makes it go right or left makes it go left. In this, you've got your pinion here. This is a power steering pinion, so it's got a bunch of valving along here. It's cut on an angle. If it was straight, it'd be very noisy and you'd have a lot of play in it. When they do this, this is a straight cut and this is a helical cut. And a helical goes on an angle. Now, in this case, it's pointing the wrong direction, but it's actually upside down. It goes in that direction, pointing towards the driver. Inside this rack the pinion here, you've got a tube here, which is attached to, which has some holes drilled in it underneath this sleeve here. There's a torsion rod which goes underneath, which attaches to here. So this can turn independently of that, but there is a stopper inside. So this can rotate, I don't know, say 5 degrees, and then it stops. Then it becomes a solid shaft, and then it mechanically starts to turn the rack back and forth. In that 5 degrees either direction, it aligns 2 holes and directs fluid from the central cylinder to the lower and the upper banks. In doing that, it takes your fluid, which is pressurized into here, and it sends it into here or here. So in the rack body, you've got your holes where these pipelines attach. As the valve goes around, angled somewhat depending on the way that you're going, you've got a pressure line coming in here which comes from your power steering pump, and you have a return line which goes to the reservoir. As you pressurize the fluid, it gets sent in, and then by the valving done inside the pinion, it sends it along the rack to one of 2 locations, either this location or this location. So as you can see there, it lines up with either side here. Here you've got your seals which go inside your rack. It goes about there, and that one presses in, and you've got a circlip that holds that end in, so you can remove it all. In the middle you've got your piston, they say. You've got a seal there, you've got an O-ring inside there as well. The fluid is directed through the tubes into either this hole or this hole here, pushing your piston, or pushing your piston either left or pushing right. Now in power steering, that's how you get nice light steering. As you turn the wheel, it twists this torsion tube the tiniest amount, aligning the holes and sending the fluid to this hole, down your tube into here, pressurizing the side of that. So as you start turning the rack in this direction, it helps push on this side the fluid. It also allows this fluid to travel back through the other tube and back into this part here where the valve goes. So as you drive without power steering, you don't have any of this. So with power steering, they can afford to use larger teeth, larger pinion gears, which allows you to turn the wheel less for the same amount of travel. Now, in the old days, we didn't have power steering. All this was nothing. All you had was a bush at this end and a bush at that end, and that did your steering. And in the middle goes your pinion. It sits on here like that. It rocks back and forth. You've got your straight cut teeth and your helical cut teeth. And they used to have real small ones of these, smaller teeth. You used to have extra larger wheels on your car to be able to turn for the same amount. Back in the old days, we had pretty skinny tyres and we didn't have power steering. But now that we do have power steering, we can afford to have smaller wheels, less turns to get the same amount of lock on our wheels, and we have larger tyres, which are even stiffer and create more resistance. So in today's generations, we really do need power steering to be able to turn the large wheels that we do fit to the front of the cars, which are there for performance and braking and safety and overall rolling of the car. So, yeah, Not sure what else. Oh, here we go. This here is another vent tube. Now, when you put your tie rods on, my tie rod here seals to this rubber ring on the tie rod, and it seals to the body of the rack to stop any dirt and grit going inside the pivot joint. As that does go back and forth, it's all airtight, so it's going to have to pressurize, and the air has to go somewhere. So it travels up the black tube here, across to the other side of the rack, and then therefore fills up the other boot with the other rack. Other boot of the rack. Yeah, so your fluid is going back and forth in the middle. The air and the ends of your tie rod boots are travelling over the top through the black tube, from there to there, and it goes all the way along to your rack. So as soon as you have this split, it allows moisture to get in. You get moisture travelling through the tube into the rack, and it can start rusting out the bottom of your rack. And the same for this. You get dirt in your bearings, you get dirt in here, it starts wearing out your teeth, you end up with a loose connection between your pinion and your rack teeth. You end up with looser steering, and it just shortens the lifespan of the rack quite quickly. So the most important thing is make sure you've got nice clean rack boots, make sure nothing is leaking, and yeah, make sure that you actually... I've pulled one in this case because mine's played up, but you can get new seals for them. You can't pull them out. You need special tools to be able to press them out and pull them out. I don't have them, but I made way with what I could do. Yeah, that's Powersteering racks when they're all pulled apart. In this case, it's got a Teflon bush in a somewhat of a piston, I'd say, which gets spring-loaded underneath, and it pushes the rack up into the teeth of the pinion to make sure it's a nice solid connection. Some are adjustable, some are not. In this case, it's spring-loaded, so it's always under pressure. It's always strong. If this tends to go, it could become loose sideways. It could become loose up and down ways. Now, as soon as it gets loose up and down ways, you start buggering up your seals, your piston, and yeah, everything else starts to wear away. So it's best to make sure that everything's nice, clean, or renewed when possible.